Let's go! Darron Reed commits to LSU. Are you freaking kidding me? My favorite defensive lineman of the weekend announces that he picked the Tigers over the Clemson Tigers, Ohio State, and so many other schools that were connected to him. And I am freaking ecstatic right now. And also, LSU picks up a nice commitment from a 3-star defensive back in Ashton Stamps. We'll get to him in just a second. But right now, the focus is on, to me, the guy that I feel will contribute to LSU year one. I love this kid. And I'm going to tell you all the reasons why, but I first have to say a thank you. Our videos have been crushing it lately. Obviously, the recruiting news helps, but just some messages I get from you guys. I just want to let you know I really do appreciate it. All the likes, subscribes, that's just so cool. Coaches reaching out to me, and that's pretty nuts. But now I do want to make an official announcement, and I'll get deeper into this Reed breakdown. We have launched our Patreon page, and I'm really excited to share with you some deeper film studies, including one on Jackson Howard that I did yesterday, some things that I like, some things that I don't. And those breakdowns, I'm going to do one on Darron Reed. I'm going to do one hopefully on Womack and Stamps and Mickens. So be on the lookout for that. We also included a deeper running back film study as well as a part of Running Back Week. So be on the lookout. I'll link it down below, patreon.com/LSU football. Okay, so now let's get back to the business here. Darron Reed, what do I like? The first thing here is whenever I look at a prospect, I try my best to see how versatile that prospect is. And the one thing that really stands out to me about Reed is, yes, this center is extremely undersized, and you won't be able to do this in the SEC, but it's the fact that he's capable of playing all 5 of the defensive line positions. This is him blowing up a play. Yes, the snap was high, but he was able to beat the down block right there to really blow this thing on up. And you could just see offenses, their entire schemes not being able to block this guy and him just dominating on the interior. Now, what's very interesting to me is necessarily he won't be a zero-tech nose. He's probably going to play the Rashard Lawrence role in Matt House's 3-4 scheme. In other words, the defensive end opposite the jack linebacker. I could also see him playing on the same side of the jack as well, but for me, this guy could play all 3 of the down line positions, but more notably, 2 of the 3 downline positions. And it's really hard to find those kind of guys that play that kind of scheme. So just, and I'll save this for the Patreon breakdown of Darron Reed so we don't get too technical here. But for me, it just boils down to having the right guys to play this scheme. Now, there's some interesting things about Darron Reed, and we've talked about him in previous videos. The recruiting services are way off on him, as in the rating systems are just all over the place, where 247, Rivals, and ESPN both have Darron Reed as not so great player, not an elite player, outside the top 40 national defensive linemen. But on 3, the new recruiting service has Darron Reed as a top 40 player nationally, not defensive lineman, top 40 national guy. So in other words, they have him as a close to, as you could possibly get, 5-star player. So really, the evaluations are all over the place. And I think the reason why, and this is where this gets fascinating. I'm looking at you, okay? I think the reason why is his size, right? His measurables have been, measured all different sizes, lengths, weights, all of that. But the one thing I've always found very interesting about defensive linemen is out of all the positions, that position has the biggest weight fluctuation from when you're in high school all the way to when you actually go to college. So what I mean by that is whichever weight they want Darron Reed to be, they can get him there. Right now, On 3 has him at 282, 6'3.5". Some people have him at 6'5", 240. So, or 250, 260. I mean, it really is all over the place. Still, I like his frame. I think you can bulk him up and play that opposite defensive end role, and that is absolutely huge because what those guys do for your defense if they can truly two-gap in the mold of, let's say, a Travon Walker at Georgia. If you get one of those kind of guys, what it does is it allows you to play a lighter box defensively. And that means committing fewer guys into the box to defend the run, which, of course, helps your coverage on the back end. So I'll save all those breakdowns once again for the Patreon page. So still, this is an absolutely nice pickup for LSU, and it will help them surge in the recruiting rankings after what has been a spectacular weekend. So really nice pickup here. Darron Reed to LSU. Let's go. Boom. I'm looking at you. Yes, you. Okay. So Ashton Stamps also commits to LSU, and I know what you're probably thinking. Carter, every time you do a commitment, you actually get to show us their actual huddle highlights in the background. But I'm actually going to do it a little bit differently here with Ashton Stamps. And the reason why I am doing it is because, well, it wasn't his high school film that earned him this LSU offer. Now, it might have been part of the evaluation, but according to my sources, I don't use that all that often, but people that I trust with this information, Ashton Stamps just quite simply earned this offer by outcompeting a lot of these kids at this LSU camp, right? And just camps in general. And that to me shows me a lot, right? Yes, of course, it's not actual football. It is a little bit underwear Olympics NFL Combine-ish. But what I want you to do is on this clip right here, focus on a few things, okay? Now, we will get to actual Ashton Stamps high school highlights on the Patreon page, but I want to focus just on this and watch him high point this football. Now, a lot of defensive backs can do this, but he just plucks it right out of the air, shows you his wide receiver background. That's a position he played in 9th grade, and a lot of people like corners that have wide receiver background. So here's Brian Polian, the special teams coordinator, and also the recruiting coordinator, a recruiting coordinator for LSU. And this is, I believe, Kerry Cooks right here evaluating Mr. Stamps. And once again, high point in the football, you like to see it. Now, I've got a lot of text messages about this, right? Including a college coach. And they were like, wait, this is interesting. Louisiana is loaded with defensive back prospects. And right now, LSU gets a commitment from the 9th highest rated defensive back in the state. It is a little bizarre. On the outside looking in, it is a little bit strange that Ashton Stamps is not even a top 800 ranked recruit. I don't think he's top 500 on any service, but I do see some upside for him. 6 foot 175. I think he's going to add some weight to that frame. Might have got away with a little pass interference there, but for me, if you do some more background on him, he does work out at DPT training, one of the top, training syndicates in high school football. Landon Ibieta, Harold Perkins, Derek Williams, Devonta Smith, Leonard Fournette, and a whole list of others. And Stamps has really been working hard to earn this LSU offer. And, according to people that know way more about LSU offers and how it actually happens, it was these camps that really sold LSU on his athleticism. Now, for me, I like him. Of course, there are other corners and safeties who have some real potential in the state of Louisiana, and I do think LSU still has an opportunity to go get those guys, such as a Curly Reed, a Jordan Matthews, and so on and so on. But for me right now, anytime a kid wants to commit to LSU this early, I'm all about it. I really am. So, look, I know a lot of you are asking, well, this is interesting. We already have 3 defensive backs committed in this cycle. Why on earth would we, offer a guy so low when we already got 3 guys locked up? The simple truth is this. Those guys aren't locked up, right? They could go elsewhere. Dalen Austin, Doherty, and Yates, because they're still making official visits elsewhere. That's the truth about recruiting, is that you never know what's going to happen. And if you get a hungry Louisiana 3-star who is very happy to have this LSU offer, and he doesn't really have an unbelievably long list of offers, you get a guy that really, really wants to be there. So I understand the logic on this, and maybe, look, LSU's defensive back board might be different than that of the recruiting services. They might view Ashton Stamps as the absolute best defensive back in the state. One more thing about Stamps when it comes to three-star defensive backs. So from 2009 to 2019, LSU has brought in 10 three-star scholarship defensive backs, and 8 of them turned out to be good players. Now, some of those guys were a guy like Cam Lewis, who was a solid replacement level guy, but he was still a good player. You need those kind of guys on your team. But 2 of those guys actually did turn out to be superstars, right? Jalen Mills and, of course, Morris Claiborne. So it's pretty interesting how well LSU has done with three-star defensive backs. We'll see what happens with Matthew Langlois over these next couple of years. I think he's going to be solid, but we shall see. So Ashton Stamps, very, very interesting player. Really excited about him joining the LSU Tigers. So we're going to do, obviously, a Patreon breakdown on him. You can go on over and take advantage of the free Jackson Howard Patreon breakdown to see if you like it. And on there, we will be doing player comps on all these players, how I see them, how I evaluate them, how different coaches feel about them. So be on the lookout for that. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom! Already got a few patrons. Shout out to Caucus, Jared. I'm absolutely loving it. Andy as well. And tonight we are doing burgers and dogs. Let's go.